Arby's, the restaurant we're going to talk about, is truly an establishment with a past full of ups and downs. These fluctuations aren't variations, they encompass minor shifts that the restaurant chain has experienced. Let's dive into this captivating story, recounting a tale of both success and setbacks, only to rise again ultimately. It may initially sound perplexing, but trust me, it's quite a thrilling adventure. Let's begin our journey at the inception of this remarkable story. But before we explore, smash the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Once upon a time, there were two brothers, Leroy and Forrest Raffle. Like the famous Coen brothers, known for their cinematic masterpieces, the Raffle brothers made their mark in a different arena: fine dining and hospitality. Their journey in the restaurant business was a culinary adventure like no other. In the 1940s, both Leroy and Forrest Raffle successfully graduated from college. Leroy held a degree in finance, while Forrest specialized in hotel and restaurant administration. On the surface, it seemed like the perfect pairing of skills to launch a successful restaurant venture. However, they didn't dive into the restaurant business immediately. Their path to culinary greatness took a different, intriguing turn. During the 1950s, they acquired a business from their uncle specializing in restaurant equipment. If you were in the process of launching a new restaurant or renovating an existing one during that era, you could simply reach out to them. They would supply you with essential kitchen equipment such as stoves and fryers. Their expertise extended beyond that. They'd assist you in designing your kitchen layout and managing the complete installation process. As one might expect, they had a keen awareness of the industry. They had a front row seat to witness the rapid expansion of the fast food sector even before many others caught on. It was the early 1960s when McDonald's was on its way to becoming a household name, and many other businesses were sprouting up in the same vein. Although they viewed this as a promising emerging sector, they were astute enough to acknowledge the fierce competition it presented. Nobody wanted to enter a battle with McDonald's, nor did they wish to engage in the race to mimic those striving to emulate the McDonald's model. They took a strategic approach to avoid direct competition by focusing on something distinct: roast beef sandwiches. This menu choice set them apart and positioned them in a slightly higher price range. Initially, their roast beef sandwiches were priced at nearly 5 times the cost of a McDonald's hamburger. This pricing strategy allowed them to take a more indirect competitive stance, targeting a different demographic, potentially a more mature and higher income clientele. The inaugural Arby's restaurant opened in July of 1964 in the modest town of Boardman, Ohio. To provide some context regarding their location, their restaurant equipment business was based in the adjacent city of Youngstown, Ohio. Within 3 years of opening their place, they expanded rapidly, reaching a remarkable milestone of 100 sites. Building on this success within 3 years, they had expanded further to 300 locations by the decade's end. What's more astonishing is that these locations were not limited to Ohio. They had spread across 37 states. Now, one might wonder how they achieved growth in such a short period. The answer lies in a combination of strategies. They leveraged debt wisely, embraced franchising opportunities, and secured investments from backers. Undoubtedly, it involved taking on debt as part of their expansion efforts. Up until now, it seems like their strategy was to expand using all means. The goal was to reach a size and stability, allowing them to carry out an initial public offering or IPO and make the company available for general purchase through the stock market. The aim was to utilize the funds from the IPO to tackle challenges. Regrettably, their plans were derailed due to market conditions. They were unable to proceed with the IPO as intended. The situation changed when the banks intervened and ceased supporting the franchisees. Consequently, the franchisees responded by withholding their share of the sales, leading to unfavorable outcomes. A company of this magnitude requires substantial capital for its operations, and it has already exhausted its resources in scaling its business to this extent. Given the circumstances, there were a few viable options at this stage. After several months of grappling with these challenges, they ultimately filed for bankruptcy. While this marked a significant setback, it wasn't the end of the road, clearly indicating there were still opportunities ahead. The Raffle brothers managed to reclaim their business and dedicated 5 years to its restoration. As of 1975, their efforts handsomely paid off, boasting a network of 500 highly profitable locations. They approached growth with prudence, determined not to replicate previous errors by expanding too rapidly. Instead of shouldering substantial debt or depending on the stock market, they strategically chose to pursue a merger with a giant corporation. This merger presented an opportunity to tap into vast resources of a larger entity, facilitating the construction and development of their RVs. The Raffle brothers continued to be responsible after selling their company to RC Cola in 1976 for $18 million. Dollars. They now have the required funding. They also have 18 million bucks in their pockets, and they still had control over the business. Arby's operated this way for 3 years and everything went well. By 1979, their business had grown even further, boasting 800 locations, all of which were reported to be consistently profitable. However, this year marked a significant turning point as the Raffle brothers decided to retire and step away from their creation. They relinquished control to RC Cola, trusting the larger corporation to continue their legacy. Unfortunately, once the Raffle brothers exited the scene, RC Cola's management led to missteps that negatively impacted the business. In 1984, the entirety of RC Cola, including Arby's, underwent a significant change in ownership when it was acquired by Victor Posner's company, Sky Victor. Under Posner's ownership, there were notable shifts in Arby's management. The new leadership team implemented several changes and strategic decisions that ultimately led to a revival of the brand and its overall performance. In the late 1980s, they rapidly expanded their reach, opening new locations at an unprecedented pace. The new owner, Victor Posner, appeared to have assembled a capable management team. However, there were lingering doubts about his intentions for the company. At 67, Posner was a billionaire with a notorious track record of hostile takeovers and leveraged buyouts. Shortly after acquiring Arsicola, he found himself in legal trouble, facing allegations of tax evasion and insider trading. This individual's intriguing background certainly adds an element of fascination, but likely having someone with such a controversial history may not be the ideal choice for your business. The administration within the franchise outlets lodged allegations against him for not behaving most favorably for the organization and essentially appropriating funds from it rather than reinvesting. His behavior deteriorated to the extent that it reached a juncture where the administration and the franchisees tried to unite and purchase the company. However, he declined to part with it, and shortly after that, a significant number of them either resigned voluntarily or were terminated, leaving those who stayed with strained relations with him. In 1993, Victor Posner was under scrutiny due to his extensive track record of questionable transactions, and the outcome was far from favorable for him. He was compelled to distance himself and divest the corporation that possessed Arby's. This sequence of events ultimately led to the establishing of a fresh entity known as Triarch. They subsequently gained ownership and exerted control over Arby's, introducing a new management team. This marked the beginning of a positive upturn in fortunes. Throughout the 1990s, Triarch commenced divesting non-food and beverage-related enterprises while intensifying their engagement within the food and beverage sectors. In 2008, a significant development reshaped the fast food landscape as Triarch acquired Wendy's in a substantial $2.34 billion deal, uniting two iconic brands, Arby's and Wendy's. Following this merger, Triarch rebranded itself as Wendy's Arby's. Now let's continue our journey into the more recent years. During the years when Arby's was partnered with Wendy's, their performance faced significant challenges. The economic downturn of 2008 had a particularly adverse impact on Arby's, causing them to experience consistent financial losses. These losses were notably more substantial than those experienced by the rest of the industry during that period. The new owners of Arby's, currently known as Inspire Brands, continue to hold the company's reins to this day. Fortunately, things have taken a more positive turn for Arby's under the leadership of Inspire Brands. According to a 2017 article in Forbes, it is mentioned that they have experienced growth in store sales for 14 consecutive quarters. Compared to the rest of the industry, this outperformance has resulted in some of their quarters, which is quite impressive, especially considering their previous performance. As part of their strategy, they began introducing menu items and closely monitoring their performance after raising them. If a product satisfies their needs, they decide to continue using it. If not, they proceed on to another thing. They concentrate on popular items like gyros and brisket burgers. Since they have made significant investments in marketing, it has contributed to their new beginning. It's important to keep in mind that they acquired Buffalo Wild Wings in 2017 and Sonic in 2018, so now all three of them are part of the company. The Raffle brothers opened the initial Arby's in 1964. By 1970, they expanded it to 300 places nationwide, yet they had done so on weak ground. Thus, they declared bankruptcy in the same decade. In 1993, Victor faced conflicts and legal troubles, leading to the sale of the company, which was then renamed Triarch. In 2008, economic challenges posed difficulties for Triarch. By 2011, Triarch separated from Wendy's and initiated a revival with support from figures like Jon Stewart and Pharrell Williams. So the next time you find yourself at an Arby's, remember the remarkable journey that brought this iconic restaurant to where it is today. From the Raffle Brothers to the Inspire Brands era, Arby's is a true American success story, filled with twists and turns that make a thrilling adventure worth savoring one delicious bite at a time. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you can stay updated with more insightful content.